All right. So OpenFlow is currently the hot topics in networking. Very hot topic. And so we'll talk about 6 different things. Planes of networking. Then we'll talk about OpenFlow. How does it operate? Who implements them? How it has evolved? And what are its limitations? Oftentimes when people talk about OpenFlow, they talk about SDN and NFV. I'm not going to talk about them in this module. They will be talked about in later modules. So this is plain OpenFlow. So OpenFlow version 1. Version was very simple. You had a table. You just match the entry. So OpenFlow 1 had a very simple one table. Now there are many tables, 1.1, right? So the reason they need to do this is because they needed to support some new protocols that they had not thought about before, in particular MPLS. Alright, MPLS has stacks of labels. You cannot look up all of them in one sweep, so you have to look them up by sequence of tables. And so the new concept is table chaining and group tables. What is table chaining? You look up in the very first table. If there is a match, it will tell you what to do and where to go. You go to that table. If there is a match, it will tell you what to do and where to go, and so on and so forth. So that is the table chaining. Now, not only you have so many tables and tables, you have something called group table. And I'm going to talk about the group table in the next slide. But let's finish table chaining. On a match, instruction may be immediate action, which may be to modify a packet, update the match fields, and or update action set. So the actions are of two kinds. One is do now, do later. Alright? So do now is immediate action, and do later is add to the action set. Add to your list of things that you need to do before the packet goes out. Whatever, if you might change the match fields. For example, if you are matching with the top level stack, now it might say, take the second level stack out of the packet and match with that. So send the match data and the action set to table N. Here I should have said table I. It doesn't have to be the last table. Some other table. And so you continue like that. And so this is table chaining that allows you to handle the same packets by many different aspects, which is what there in the MPLS stacks. Now there is one more. So there is an action set. The action set is the list of things that you have to do, and that is you keep it in the set. So action set is 0 here. It becomes whatever was told here 1, and then 3, and then whatever. So you keep making your list of actions. Okay, group table. I'm going to come to group table, but basically on a miss, the instruction may be to send the packet to the controller or continue processing with the sequentially next table. So if you went to table 1 and nothing matched, what do? You have basically, previously, I don't think in 1.1 they defined it. I think it is more clear in the next few slides. So there are several options. One is that you go to the table number 2, and if nothing matches, you go to table number 3 until you find a match. Or there might be or you send it to the controller and say, look, nothing is matching. What do I do with this packet? And now the group tables. Group tables basically are designed for BUM, broadcast, unknown, and multicast. So basically, previously everything was handled as broadcast. So you sent it to everybody. But now you can be smarter, because the group table will tell you that you have to send it to these 5 places. Right? And for every possible multicast address, they might have a different entry. So you go and match there and you say, okay, all right, if you match this line, then you send it to these places. If you match this line, then you send it to these places. For the group table, each entry has a variable number of buckets. And if the bucket says all, then you execute all the buckets. And this is used for broadcast multicast. If it says select, then you select one particular bucket. Used for port mirroring. Selection may be done by hashing some fields. So basically, when you want to monitor a traffic, that is when we need the port mirroring, right? Everybody remembers port mirroring? Port mirroring is when the traffic is going X, but somebody wants a copy of it, right? Some manager wants a copy of all the packets. That is when we use port mirroring. So in that case, you can send it to one of the managers, and you select that based upon hashing up some fields. So, if there are many different places the packets are going to be mirrored, then you can select by hashing some fields. Indirect. And that one means execute one predefined bucket. Okay, so this one is switch selected, and this one is exactly. So this one will say, well, there are so many possibilities. You can pass on the first one. So many possibilities, and you select one. Here, the controller has already selected one for you. That's the main difference. And fast failover is execute the first live bucket. That means you use the first live port in that list. So sometimes the things may fail, the links may fail, and the group table will tell you if the link 1 is down, what to do with the packet. The link 2 is down, what to do with the packet. So they thought about some new problems that they had not seen before, and now they have group tables which can handle the multicast better, that can handle the port mirroring better, and that can handle the failover better. Alright, so with these features, they can support multipath, MPLS, Q-in-Q, and tunnels. So multipath is clear that if you have two paths, you could hash something and then select one of the paths. No, the select. Switch selected. MPLS is basically multiple labels you can push and pop and go through table chaining. Q-in-Q, multiple VLANs, which is exactly similar to MPLS. You look at the first VLAN, and if you need to look at the second one, then you go to the second table. And tunnels. Now, tunnels are VXLAN tunnels, NVGRE tunnels. VXLAN is most common, right? So it could be VXLAN, NVGRE, or one of those tunnels that we talked about earlier. So those are supported now, because you will go through the virtual ports. Now, virtual port we didn't talk about here right now. Virtual ports were talked in OpenFlow version 1. Right? And you can go back to the previous list if you wanted to see the virtual ports. There are 7 virtual ports, and these are the 7 virtual ports. All, controller, local, table, normal, and flood. So this will take you through a tunnel port. Okay, so anyway, so this is virtual 1.1. Now, here things go. So with 1 and 1.1, they are not compatible. So the switches that run 1 cannot run 1.1. Obviously, they have no idea of multiple ports and multiple tables. So that's a little problem in the sense that either people have not moved, so there are lots of version 1 switches, and they are taking time to get to the next version, because this was an incompatible move. That they have a table chaining and that they have a group table. Those are the 2 things new. Yeah.
Explain the use of multiple tables.
Explain the use of multiple tables. So basically, previously you had one table, you matched, and if you matched with any entry, you did the action and you got out. Right? With that, you cannot handle multiple labels, because after the first label, you have to match the second label. So you have to go back to a table, right, again. Right? So that's why they have these multiple tables. Okay, so you don't, okay, that's a good question. The question is, can that same one table be repeatedly, can you go from table 1 to table 1? The answer is no. You always move forward in the table. From 1 you can go through to n, from 2 you can go to 3 to n, from 3 you can go to 4 to n. All right. So that way you are guaranteed to finish. Otherwise, you might be in a loop in the same table or in the same set of tables. So you are not allowed to go backwards. Good question. Yeah.
Multi-table is basically for implementing if then else in the data frame. So it is basically if you match something, then you go to table 2 or table 3, and it's like implementing if then else logic in the data frame.
Multiple table helps you do any if then else, right? If something happens, then you do table 2. If something else happens, you do table 3, right? So one of the examples of that is MPLS table. If the VLAN number, if this tunnel is ending here, MPLS tunnel is ending here, then you take out the label and do something with that packet. So it is general if then else. So the question is, are all the tables are still, actually you said stored, no. Are all the tables still programmed by the controller? The answer is yes. So the controller will send you n table plus group table. Oh, okay, the table are stored in the switch. The table itself are made in the controller, but they are stored in this. They are basically, I didn't want to use the word they are stored in the controller. A controller probably has a database which is much more general than just the table alone. And then when somebody asks, they just send the table to the switch, and the switch has it in a ready to use form where it can just go and look it up and go. So the answer is yes, they are stored in the switch.
Is this n parameter of the version, or is it the tables are created and destroyed?
Okay, n is a variable number. It's not nothing with the version number 1.1. Some switches might have 5 tables, some switches might have 1 table, some switches might have 100 tables. So the controller will tell you. Okay, so group table is table number n plus 1. All right. Group table is just the last table, except that it has a different structure. A different structure in the sense that it has multiple buckets. Right? So that is explained in the next slide. The group table has multiple buckets, variable number of buckets. Right? So, and then the instructions will tell you which of these things to do. Either you execute all the buckets, or execute a bucket, one of those, one of some buckets, or you execute ith bucket, things like that. So that is group table. You understand? So group table is the last table. You don't come back from the group table. However, in the group table is slightly different than the other tables. There is a group of actions. Group table has multiple buckets.
Bucket is connected buckets.
Bucket is action items.
Is the action item?
Yeah.
Okay.
Buckets are, each bucket is one action. Alright, 1.2. OpenFlow 1.2 added V6 support. So with 1.1 they could not handle V6 because basically to support any new protocol you need that to be defined in the tables. And that actually is a problem because the protocol is not self-extendable. I and you cannot extend it. It has to go through the ONF. ONF has to define the field and then we can use it. So they added IPv6, IPMP v6 and so on and so forth, ICMP v6. And they also changed the matches to be extensible matches, TLV values. Previously they were just fixed length that, if your MAC address is this and that, so on and so forth. Now the matches are defined by TLV, type, length and value. Is it a number? Match, for how long and what is the value, right? So the value is defined, this is the actual length of the value. Type, length and value. And experimental and extensions. So there were some fields which were especially specified for people to experiment with. These are not standard, but if you come up with a good use for it, then they come back next time and we will put it in. So these are experimental code points that are assigned by ONF, which are especially for the experimenter. 3 changes: IPv6, TLV, and experimenter. Okay, not much difficult. 1.3 went even further, lot more actually. So I have 2 slides on 1.3. In 1.3, they put the extension headers. So IPv6, those of you who know IPv6 know that it has many headers. This was supposed to be one of the special features of IPv6, which I don't think is such a good feature now, considered good. But you had the main header, and then you had the extension headers, which were optional, and you could have any number of extension headers and so on and so forth. That makes it slightly difficult to handle the things in hardware. But anyways, extension headers. So now you can check hop by hop extension header, router extension header, fragmentation extension header, destination options extension header, authentication extension header, and ESP extension header. And if something else is present. So IPv6 needed more work. MPLS was handled okay, except that when the MPLS bottom of stack bit is set, then you are supposed to do something different, because when you are at the bottom of the stack, you cannot pop anymore. And so that handling was corrected. MAC in MAC. So they had already done Q in Q, but now MAC and MAC showed up. So MAC in MAC is handling. Now, can anybody think about what you need to do in MAC in MAC? When you come in, the provider will encapsulate in its own MAC address and send it through its network. At the exit, you have to take out that encapsulation, and the packet will go on the customer's MAC address. So that has to be handled, and that is handled now. Tunnel ID. Now, if you have a tunnel, then they need some idea, some information, VXLAN. So you have to say, well, it's not just sufficient to say that set up a VXLAN tunnel. You have to say, where does it go to? Right? So all that information has to be put. Per connection event filtering. So basically, the OpenFlow allows one switch to be managed by many controllers. Now, if suppose a link goes down, who should I tell? And so now connection here means connection to the controller. Per connection event handling means that now they will tell, okay, if this happens, please tell controller number 1. If this happens, please tell controller number 2. The controller number will say, please tell me about all these events. If link goes down, that happens, this happens, packet overflow, buffer overflow. Any trouble you get into, you know which controllers to tell it to. You may have to tell it to more than one controller. So there is per connection event handling. Before that, they used to tell everybody, and some other software on the way had to figure out which controller to tell. Many auxiliary connections to controller to avoid to exploit parallelism. Now, previously we had just one connection to the controller, and now we can have as many connections as you want, and you can send packets in parallel. You can do lots of things in parallel. You might have, for example, let's say 100 ports. Not really 100, maybe 10 ports. If you have 10 ports in a virtual switch, you happen to have something on the port 1 and something on port 2 and something on port 3, so you might have 5 packets to send to the controller. Previously they had to go in sequence, now they can go in parallel. Now I'm just thought about something, that while they can get out of here in parallel in the software, once they reach a physical NIC, they will go in sequence. But at least the bottleneck is not the software. Okay, here in the software you can get out fast. All right, better connection capability negotiation. So capability negotiation, what is capability negotiation? Basically, when the switch comes up, the switch and the controller talk, and the controller asks, what are the things that you can do? Well, I can do version 1.1. That's a capability. All right, controller may not like it and say, sorry, I can't manage you, forget it. Or it may say, okay, I manage you. So there is a negotiation also going on, right? So this is called negotiation, but this is basically capability discovery first place, right? And then negotiation. Or how many quality of service can you manage? How many queues can you manage? How many ports you have? So all of these are capabilities, right? Capability negotiation. Now it can go into many messages. Previously, the whole thing used to go in one message, and which actually may not be a good idea. So that is better. more general experimental capabilities. Now, experimental capabilities were allowed in 1.1, but people who were experimenting found out that they were not sufficient, so they are more general. A separate flow entry for table miss actions. So we talked about what happens when you miss a table. So it was left open as to what you do. Now it is not left open. In 1.3, the last entry tells you that if you miss the all other entries, then you should do this. And this may be sent to the controller, go to the next table, go to the table 5, throw it away, whatever. So there is a very clear instruction for table miss. In 1.1 it was not. The cookies field is to help the controller. Now what is cookies used for in the web server? So it helps the server figure out where were we before. It doesn't keep any state, right? Server doesn't keep any state, but if you send the cookie back, then it knows, oh yeah, this is Raj Jains and he had a bucket number 5 where he was buying this stuff. All this information is with you, and the cookie is the only thing that tells them, and then with the cookie they can figure out everything. So similarly, they have a cookie here where when you send a message, it doesn't have to go figuring out the whole thing about that message, that packet or whatever it is. There is a cookie which tells it that this is what this message is about. A cookie field is added to messages containing new packets sent to the controller. This helps controller process the message faster than if it has to search its entire database. So now it can basically, okay, all right, this is a packet which is MPLS, and I got to look at what to do with the MPLS stuff. This is a packet which is about Mac and Mac. So something more context about the message is there in the cookie. Duration. All the counters have duration. So now all the counters have a timer which along with the count. So it is not that you find the number of packets sent or number of bytes sent. You have when the counter was initialized. So now you can calculate the rate. And the rate are going to be used in a minute. So I'm going to present that too in a minute. But so they need to have a duration. Per flow counters can be disabled to improve performance. Previously the counters were per flow, and you had hundreds and thousands of flows, and you had hundreds of thousands of counters, and this people were busy counting than doing the work. Right? So they said, okay, all right, let's forget counting that much. So you don't have to have per flow. We could just do with the per port is fine, or per switch is fine in some cases. So basically per flow counters can be disabled. Per flow meters and meter band. But what do we have is actually counters can be disabled, but you might need it for some reason, and the reason is you have a meter and the meter bands. So what is a meter? A meter is something that measures the rate of something. Okay? And meter band is a threshold on that meter. So let me explain. So let's say a flow belongs to customer X, and customer X has paid for 18 megabits per second. So we want to make sure that they never send any more than 18 megabits per second. If they send more than 18 megabits per second, we throw away their packets. So how do you program this stuff? First of all, you ask the switch to measure, that is called a meter. You ask the switch to meter the rate, so it will have a duration, it will have a counter when initialized, and it will have some count, and then you can calculate the rate. The rate might be like this, red curve. And then there is a band setup. There would be more than one band setup. So if it is, this is band 1, this is band 2, band 3, band 4, you could have any number of bands. If the band is crossed, then there is an action. Alright? The action could be as simple as throw it away or start counting, and now we will charge him at a higher rate. Right? So there could be many other actions. Or it could be that please mark this other bit and send the packet so that somebody else can throw it away. Many different actions possible when you overflow your rate. Alright? So that's what it is. So these meters and meter bands. Meters are simply the rates, and the bands are thresholds. Meter may have multiple bands and meter is simply a threshold, right? Anybody has a question about that?
So there could be a lower band, a lower level also below which the bandwidth should not fall, or are they all upper bands?
No. Hold on. This is usage, not anything else.
Oh, this is usage.
Right? I mean, if you don't use it, and if you bought 18 megabits and used 2 megabits, then nothing can be done in terms of service. This is the actual traffic. So there is no minimum. Yes, I mean, there could be a thing that if it is here, then send the packet, don't drop it, things like that. I mean, maybe put it at a higher priority, so other people will get dropped, but not this one. Right? Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah. Now, on triggering a band, the meter drops the packet. If it drops the packet, then we call it a rate limiter. That's just an example. Right? If you want to implement a rate limiter, you just say that you triggered the band, drop it. Other QoS mechanism can be designed using these meters. Right now they have only one mechanism, which is rate limiter, but others will come in the future. Meters are attached to a flow entry, not to a queue or a port. So that's important to understand. Each flow has a limit, not a port or a queue. And multiple flow entries can all point to the same meter. So the way you get the queue or a port is possible by all the flows that are going to that queue can use the same meter. So they will increment the same meter and the meter will represent the whole total rate. Right? And then all the flows will be dropped or whatever will happen to that queue. So, but meters are attached to a flow entry. So when you go back to the table, which is actually, I don't want to go back again, but the table entry is already shown here. Match fields, priority, counters, instructions, timeouts, and a second timeout, and then cookie. Alright? And so in the instruction, it could be a meter with a meter ID, and then the meter band, and then the counter. And the meter band would be band type, the rate, counter, and a specific whatever you do. So there are many different kinds of bands, and there are right now two types of bands defined. One is drop band and one is remark band. If you cross the first band type, you are dropped. If you cross the second band type, then we remark the packet. What is DSCP? DSCP is diffserv. The question is, what layer is OpenFlow? OpenFlow, actually, let me see. You can implement any set of layers with OpenFlow. So far, we have seen layer 2, 3, 2.5 MPLS, 3 IP, and something related to ports, because ports are in that match field. So up to 2 to 4 we can implement very easily. Now, having said that, the port numbers in the layer 4 header, like port 80, right, L4 port, gives you some idea of the application. That is a web application. So you can even control that. So in that sense, it is basically, not related to a layer, it is just related to the whole, basically how you define the flow, open flow. Flow can be defined up to layer 4, can be defined for the higher layers. Okay, so the question is that OpenFlow is the protocol which is used between the switch and the controller. Which layer it is? So in that packet, it will be an application. Basically, you will take the OpenFlow message, put it inside TCP, put it inside IP, put it inside Ethernet, and send it. Right? So the OpenFlow, and this is true for all other protocols that you will see here. When people talk those protocols, other than OSPF and other things, those are different things. Those are not, right? But any of these control protocols that, we say, those are messages basically, and they are application. Any other question? Just like DNS. If you were to send a DNS request, that would be an application message. Right? You will take a DNS request, put it into a TCP and send it, actually UDP, and send it. And you'll get this. Does the meter count the traffic between the switch and the controller? The answer is most meters probably will not be wasting their time doing that. because it's like, how much you talk to your boss, there's no limit. And it's really for the controlling other people's traffic. I mean, you could put a limit, but that would just not allow you to work at all. So the question is, if the packet is dropped, do we lower the rate? Actually, you didn't lower the rate, you didn't count the packet as sent, so the rate is not gone up. So what will happen is, in this diagram, this will be clipped off. Right? The number of packets, actually it won't be clipped off. What will happen is, at this point, you will drop the packet and counter will remain the same, but the time will go up. Right? So the rate will go down in that sense, right? And at some point, you will be able to send one packet. It's like congestion control actually. It's not avoidance, because you're dropping the packet. When you drop something, that is not avoiding anything. That is actually killing it. So yeah. Avoidance would be when nothing is lost. When you store it. Yeah, you could store it here too. Basically, but the queue will build up very fast and then you will have to overflow. Yeah, if you did store and things like that, then it will be avoidance. Right, if you drop it, you don't retransmit anything. Basically, the source retransmits it. If the source has a TCP, we don't know whether this is TCP or not, right? If the source has TCP, it will retransmit. If it has something else, it may not retransmit. Let's talk about the standard non-open flow network, internet. In the internet, there is no retransmission. Now, there are some exceptions that I'll come to in a minute. In general, there is no retransmissions along the way. Retransmission is done only by the source. Okay? The exception is the wireless network. In the wireless networks, the packets are thrown out so often that it is not fruitful to have the source retransmit them, because if you are 2,000 miles away from the source, you might as well retransmit it rather than wait for the source. So the wireless hops and wireless protocols such as Wi-Fi, they have retransmission per hop. Right? That will continue here as well. That has nothing to do with the open flow or anything. So most of the non-wireless hops there is no retransmission. Most of this. And again, you could design a protocol which could retransmit it, such as token ring. But token ring is gone. So the only thing mostly people use is the Ethernet. Ethernet doesn't do retransmissions. All right. So we understand the band and rate. Okay.